What is up, guys? Welcome back to another daily build video. This time, the ALTIMANIAC, dude. I have been waiting for this car ever since I noticed that it was going to be available. Watch out, dude. Watch out. All right, we're knocking into everything. Anyways, I've been waiting for this car to be available in the game ever since I saw it in some of the Season 3 promo material. I was just super excited. I love the idea of having an Ultima in the game, in a racing game nonetheless. The Ultima is one of those cars that you see on the daily here in the States. It is a very, very popular car here, and it's just nice to see it in a game. It's not a race car at all. It's also not a drift car, unless it's this one. The Forsberg ALTIMANIAC, absolutely phenomenal looking. I'm so pumped that it's in the game, but we need to talk about how usable it actually is. Let's go. All right, first off, before we get into the car, I just want to mention something. If you're noticing any frame rate issues in these videos lately, the game has been running very poorly on my PC. I've been changing video settings left and right, trying to get the best frame experience here. I've got some custom settings, and it just seems to not be working very well. Hopefully, in the next update, we can get a little bit of a better performance out of the game. Anyways, let's get into it, man. The ALTIMANIAC is just one of my favorite cars, and I'm glad it was here, like I said in the intro, but we need to talk about the performance. So let's start off with the drift build. I did two builds for you guys. The drift build actually performs very, very well. It's unfortunate that that's the build that performs well, because there's just not a lot of drifting in this game. Like, there's a few of the drift playlist events, and there's a few drift events that are in select playlists, and you can go back and do those, and that's fun and that's fine. But it's really not what you're doing in the game, right? We are mostly in this game, we're grand racing, and grand racing is just not viable with this car. So anyways, let me get into the drift build first, and then we'll talk about the race build in just a moment. But basically, on my test course, Ebisu style, I scored an 830,000 points, and that is actually good enough to be the top score for the drift cars that I've tested. Now, I do need to mention that since the steering sensitivity sliders have been entered into the game, I've been scoring higher on drift events with different cars, so I actually need to go back and retest the RX-7 and the Evo 9 and probably the GSR Flow Edition. Those are cars that actually score pretty well, and probably the MX-5 as well, if I didn't mention that as well. Anyways, for right now, it is the top dog in drift for my leaderboard, but I think that'll change in the future. All right, here are the pro settings for the drift build. Starting with the grip rear, we're at -5, 70 on the brake balance. And then if we move into the suspension, we're at +9 on the spring rear, 0 in the compression front, 11 in the compression rear, 0 in the rebound front, 10 in the rebound rear, 0 in the ARB front, 10 in the ARB rear, and then -0.25 in the camber front and -0.15 for camber rear. Again, that got me an 830,000 score. And keep in mind, my controller settings are sensitivity at 80, max lock at 70, dead zone at 0, and I have 50 for the linearity. That's what this tune was designed around, and my difficulty settings may not be the same ones you're running. So I've got traction control on, ESP off, drift assist on comfort, counter steering on. So those ones might not be exactly what you're running. You need to turn these on if you're going to use this tune. It just really doesn't work otherwise. All right, let's move into the race build. Now, the race build didn't perform as well as I wanted it to. It definitely doesn't have the acceleration of the Unicorn or even the Hoonigan Evo. Those two cars are probably the best two in the class, and then everything else kind of comes after that. So to be honest with you, it's really not that viable in the grand races. I really wouldn't recommend it unless you just want to have a good time and drive an Ultima, which I might do in the next stream, I'm not sure. But basically, in my test course, Scotto versus Scotto, I ran a 230.050, and a 230.050 kind of puts it in the middle of the pack. Like I said, haven't tested a ton of cars, but it's nowhere near the Unicorn, and that's honestly the only thing that matters, because you're not going to use it in the drift sections in the grand races. So anyways, here is my race tune for the car. So starting with the brake balance, we're at 53%. Load front is at -3. Spring front is at -6, 0 in the rear. Compression front is at -4. Compression rear is at -3. Rebound front is at -5, rebound rear is at -3, and then the ARB front is +10, ARB rear is -5, and then the camber front is -0.25, and camber rear is -0.25. So that is it for the tuning. Have fun with the ALTIMANIAC. It's a very nice car, and keep in mind you can't do any customization on this because it is a sponsored car for Forsberg, and honestly the wrap looks fine, looks nice. All right, thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I will catch you on the next one. Trigger out.